All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Seahawks Rams game from yesterday, game that went into overtime. Game got off to a slow start, and to be honest, though, even going back and rewatching the highlights, I mean, the Seahawks really should have won this game. And if it was not for two red zone interceptions by Geno Smith, Seahawks would have won this game, really. He ended up finishing the game throwing 3 picks, but there was a lot of opportunities for the Seahawks to put this game away, but they just didn't. And one of the red zone interceptions ended up turning into a pick six, going the other way. So, but yeah, this game got off to a slow start. I mean, the Seahawks were up. I think they started off the game, they were up 10-0. And early on in this game, Puka Nacua, we talked about Brian Branch getting ejected. Puka Nacua ended up getting ejected as well from the game. So his day, I mean, after coming back last week, and we weren't sure if he was going to play because he tweaked his knee again in practice. And you heard, oh, it's not a big deal. Then you heard he's going to try to play, and he did end up playing, but then he ended up getting ejected from the game. But yeah, there were all. There was an interception in the first quarter, and there was just all punts. Now, like I said, Nacua got thrown out early on in this game. He ended up getting shoved by a Seahawks player, and then he ended up throwing a punch back, and then he ended up getting ejected because of that. I had to go and see that on Twitter or on X because I had no idea that happened. Because we were focusing on the other games, but we did get scoring. The Seahawks were up 13-3 going into the half. Yeah, there was no scoring in the first quarter, but then the Rams actually got on the board. They had a 38-yard field goal by Josh Carty. So that made it 3-0. Then the Seahawks went down the field, 9 plays, 70 yards, and Geno Smith connected with Tyler Lockett for a 30-yard touchdown. So that made it 6-3. Then Matthew Stafford threw an interception, trying to hit Puka Nacua. And ends up getting picked off. But actually, this is where it happened. This was on the interception. So Nacua ended up getting thrown out of the game on this play. And then the Seahawks, they turned that into a touchdown. Jackson Smith-Njigba had a huge day. It was 1st and 20, 46-yard reception by him. And then on 2nd and 10, Geno connected with Smith-Njigba once again for a 24-yard touchdown. Just bad defense by the Rams. Allowing the Seahawks to get down there so fast. But, so it was 13-3 at the half. Then the Rams opened up the second half with a nice drive. They went 11 plays, 75 yards. Kyron Williams fumbled on this drive, but Cooper Kupp was right there to recover the fumble. They got down into the red zone, and then Matthew Stafford connected with Demarcus Robinson for a 1-yard touchdown. And he had a big day as well. He stepped up. It was 13-10. Seahawks then punted, and then the Rams ended up tying the game. Another Carty 21-yard field goal. So, game was tied. And then the Seahawks are driving. They're driving. They get down into the red zone. They're at the Rams 6. Geno tries to connect with Smith-Njigba, and he gets picked off by Kinchins, who had 2 picks on the day. He returns it all the way for a touchdown, and that made it 20-13. So if that doesn't happen, I mean, the Seahawks could at least get a field goal on that drive, whatever. They get nothing, and the Rams get 7 points going the other way. Then, Seahawks punt. Rams have their punt blocked, and Geno throws another pick. They get down to the Rams 4, and he gets intercepted by Kinchins again. And more punts after that. But then they went 8 plays, 73 yards down the field. And Geno connected. So on 4th and 5, he connects with Smith-Njigba for 29 yards, and then he connects with Smith-Njigba for a 14-yard touchdown. So that made it 20-20 all. Rams then punted, and then the Seahawks just kneeled it down, and they went to overtime. Seahawks got the ball to start. Didn't catch the ending of it because I was on my way home. I was out. And the Seahawks were driving once again. Yet another big play to Smith-Njigba. They got all the way down to the Rams' 16-yard line. They went for it on 4th and 1 with Kenneth Walker. He gets stuffed. And then the Rams go 4 plays, 83 yards down the field for a game-winning touchdown. You had 24 yards to Tyler Johnson, which I don't know how Tyler Johnson caught that, because there were 3 Seahawks players right there, and Stafford fit into that tight window. Then he had 16 yards to Tutu Atwell, and then another 4 yards to Kyron Williams, and then Stafford connects with Demarcus Robinson. This was an unbelievable catch, a one-handed catch. I mean, not as good as, of course, Garrett Wilson's catch on Thursday, but this was a heck of a catch by him, and that was for 39 yards, and that was the game winner. And the Rams win, and they get back to 500. They get back to 500. So the Rams looked like they were going nowhere with all the injuries, but they look like a different team now that they got Cooper Kupp back. Puka Nacua, of course, got ejected, but he had a good game last week. And I think one of the guys that benefits the most from these two guys being back is Demarcus Robinson, because he turned into the number 1 receiver when these guys went down, and he really didn't do much while they were gone. But now everybody's focusing their attention on Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and Matthew Stafford trusts Demarcus Robinson, and he makes plays. So, and speaking of the Rams, let's look at their offensive stats. So Stafford went 25 of 44 for 298 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. I mean, before last week, he only had 3 touchdown passes. Now he has 6 touchdown passes in the last 2 weeks. So, his numbers are again more respectable, looking more like the Stafford that we're accustomed to seeing. Kyron Williams, 22 carries for 69 yards. Cooper Kupp had 11 receptions for 104 yards. Demarcus Robinson, 6 for 94 and 2 touchdowns. Tyler Johnson had 3 for 38. Cameron Kinchins had 2 interceptions on the day. Of course, one of them was returned for a touchdown. Rams defense, 7 sacks in this game. So not only did they get turnovers, but they create turnovers, they also got after the quarterback in this game. And for Geno Smith, 21 of 34, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions, and they proved costly. Kenneth Walker, only 83 yards on the ground in this game. Jackson Smith and Jigba. DK Metcalf did not play in this game. He had a big day. 7 receptions, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett had 3 for 63 and a touchdown. Seahawks defense, no sacks in the game. So that's big for the Rams. And, you're going to be getting more guys back on that offensive line. They're a different team right now. And where we sit currently with the NFC West, they're in second place. The Cardinals right now are in first. They won against the Bears yesterday. They're 5-4. But the Rams are right there. And they are going to go on a run. They are going to go on a run. They look like a completely different team now with their guys back. Obviously, Puka Nacua will be playing next week. The injection, you didn't want to see that, but it ended up not costing them. They ended up getting the win. And they will be taking on the Dolphins next week. For the Seahawks, as a tough loss. They're in last place now with that loss. Back-to-back home losses for them. But they go into the bye. And when they come out of the bye, they take on the 49ers. But this NFC West, it's going to be very close to the end. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Because now the 49ers are going to be getting healthy on offense, and hopefully some of the other guys on defense come back. The Rams are getting guys back. The Cardinals, right now are in first place. So it's going to be close to the end, like I said. But this was a big win for the Rams. They get back to 500. And I had this team making the playoffs, and I feel very confident that they could do that right now. I mean, it's going to be tough because the NFC is pretty jam-packed right now with teams. It's going to be tough to make the wild card because right now you have the Vikings, the Eagles, and who's the last wild card team? The last wild card team with the NFC is the Packers. And you got 2 6-2 teams in the Vikings and the Eagles, and then you got the Packers at 6-3, and then you got a bunch of 4-4 teams. So right now, I mean, the only pathway at the moment is probably the division. So, but we'll see. There's still a lot of season left to be played. But I think the Rams could definitely, with what they have left on their schedule, I mean, they do play the Eagles, and that's at home. So that's a game they have to win. That's a game they have to win. If they can win that game, next 2 weeks they got the Dolphins at home. They're at the Patriots. The Dolphins game is going to be tough because Tua being back, they look like a different team, even though they've lost their last 2 games. And we'll talk about them in a second. But in the next segment. But the Dolphins is going to be a tough game. The Patriots, they should win. Then you got the Eagles at home. We'll see. If you can win that, you can be in good shape. But yeah, they could definitely go on a run. And for the Seahawks, it's just their season's been kind of a roller coaster. They got off to a 3-0 start, then they lost their next 3. They beat the Falcons, and then they lost their next 2 home games. So, then after that, they got a tough finish to their schedule. They got the Cardinals twice, the Niners, the Packers, the Vikings, the Rams to finish up the season. So, a lot of tough games on that schedule. So, I don't really like their chances, but who knows? But I think some of the positives you could take away from that game is Jackson Smith-Njigba. Without DK Metcalf, he really showed out in this game in his second year. So that's encouraging. But those interceptions really cost them in this game. Because like I said, 7 points going the other way. So, but the Rams get a big win. Seahawks, they drop another one at home. Let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to click that super chat button in the chat. Any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast that you want to see me acknowledge. Just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the Bills-Dolphins game. We'll talk about the ending to that. Big AFC East matchup. We'll get into that and discuss what happened when we return. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.